thanks to everyone for signing on and joining us once again. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Barbara Gardner. Barbara has a master's in educational leadership and a master's of science and justice studies from Southern New Hampshire University. Her bachelor's is in business education, and she started her career as a business education teacher in Pittsfield, New Hampshire. She spent the last 6 years as a high school administrator and decided that a career change was in order after the pandemic and just all the tough work in the school systems. She worked as a training specialist for the New Hampshire Department of Corrections, and then came over to the Bureau of Education and Training as the senior educator, training specialist, and CPM coordinator. Barbara is here today to talk to us about managing virtual teams. It's a really, obviously, extremely relevant topic and really helpful presentation. So I am thrilled today to welcome Barbara to Coffee and Conversations. And with that, Barbara, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll let you share your presentation and get rolling today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me, and welcome everybody. So I really do enjoy this topic because leadership in itself is difficult. You know, when you're promoted, sometimes we're promoted on our skills and for the job we do, and leadership skills are something that, you know, sometimes we have to learn. But then when you add in managing virtual teams, so people from home, those are skills that not everybody has. So I'd like to welcome you today to this managing virtual teams discussion. And if you have any questions, you know, please feel free to ask them. If there's something you want to talk about directly to the slide, or at the end, I can answer questions. And I figured we'd start off the first few slides, which is kind of like with your basic definitions of, you know, virtual teams. So a team, 2 or more independent individuals working towards that common goal. And then there are your teams that, you know, are just kind of dispersed geographic, but they're not your team. So it could be like a marketing team or people located. And we kind of like to make the distinction for you because virtual teams and virtual networks are different. And as a leader, you know, trying to manage your team is difficult enough, but you don't want to have to try to navigate, you know, networks that are kind of dispersed all over. So as we go along here, we all know that the state has the telework, and every agency can pick how their telework works. So some agencies, people do 1 or 2 days a week. Some agencies have gone full time. And as a leader, that could be hard to manage, especially when you're trying, you know, to decide which days people are out, which days do I have my teams here, you know, and communications. So there's some virtual continuum that your teams are completely virtual. And then there's some in the middle where 1 or 2 days a week, you have, you know, different employees out. And then you have your team that's face-to-face, because as we know, not everybody can definitely be 100% virtual in the agencies that we have. So it's this continuum, and you have to be able to navigate that. So virtual teams, like we know, right? They can involve different locations, languages, time zones, cultural differences, organizations. Now, for the state, pretty much for our meetings, our team is all in the same time zone. The locations are spread out through New Hampshire. But for education and other organizations, you could have your team spread out all over the world, which is an amazing thing to have, because it actually allows you, and when we get to the benefits of managing that team as we go, you know, you can have more people work for you. And that is a great advantage, especially in the times that we're in right now. So let's go over one more, and that should bring us to the advantages, the challenges and the benefits of a virtual team, and what you need to be aware of. So let's just go one more slide there we go. So let's talk about the benefits, right? There are a lot of benefits for agencies, to actually allow telework. This is a great recruitment and retention tool that, especially now, could definitely come in handy, right? So reduced real estate cost. I know that for the state of New Hampshire, trying to have all our buildings that we have, and then we hire new people only to realize that we have no space for some of them. So we're kind of sharing. So our telework actually allows that flexibility. So my supervisor and I share his office. On the days that he's not here, I'm in his office. And then I have my telework day. Right? So saving time and money on travel, that is a very big benefit for people. You know, I get up in the morning. I don't get paid to travel to work, but for me, depending, it's like 30 minutes of my time and then 30 minutes on the other end. And then, of course, we all know gas. So this way, the benefit of me coming to a job that offers that flexibility of telework too is, you know, I get up, I just walk down the hall, I'm right there. Snowy weather, you know, that's just a great addition to something that we can kind of advertise to bring people in. Environmental benefits due to less traveling, you know, less gas use. Employee satisfaction due to flexibility. And job satisfaction is the number one thing that employees are looking for. It will trump even money. So people say, you know, offer more money will get people in. Employee satisfaction is extremely high. The ability to hire the best people regardless of their location. So this is a great one. You know, maybe that person you want to hire right now is sitting in Texas. You can bring that person in and, you know, add them to your organization without having them to have to move. So we can be able to get more people. And then we can easily hire people with disabilities that maybe can't come into our offices. So the benefits really outweigh, to me, the challenges, which we're going to go into next. And innovation is more likely to occur when you have a more diverse team. But with the benefits come the challenges. So this is where a lot of times, as I've been listening to to leaders, right? And they're talking on how do I manage my team, right? A lot of what could go wrong, you know, so motivation. Easier to be distracted at home. Depending, sometimes I find it more easily to be distracted here at work, right? You hear a conversation, your ears kind of perk up. So motivation can be a challenge, but it also depends on that person that you hire. You have to know your team. You have to build that trust ahead of time and know that whether that team is sitting here in the office in front of you or sitting at their desk at home, they're going to work for you. So risk of burnout due to loss of separation between work and personal life. Yes, for some people, maybe getting up and going down the hall and not having that socialization and being able to turn off the work. I can tell you that, you know, my days at telework, I feel like sometimes I work harder at home than I do here because I can look at the clock and be like, oh, it's 4 o'clock, but I really do want to finish this. So I'll just keep going. And accountability may be harder to maintain. So for the accountability, there are a lot of things, even on our computers, that kind of follow. If I don't do my work here or I don't do my work at home, for me, it's noticeable. Either I'm teaching a class or I'm not. Or, you know, I'm doing how many bills or anything from HR. Either I'm doing my invoices or I'm not. There are a lot of ways to account for accountability. You have to trust your skills as a leader that no matter what, you're going to make sure that you are engaging with your employees. So it is hard to socialize and build trust and cohesion among is if you're hiring and we're hiring in the state, you know, have the people come in. I teach a course that's completely online for our Supervisor Academy. And I do icebreakers with them, and I put them in breakout rooms because I don't have that opportunity to have them come here and to build that cohesion as a team. As a leader, that's part of your skills that you have to have. So harder to share common ground, feelings of isolation and disconnection, and then just cultural diversity. So the social engagement can be a challenge, but as you build your skills as a leader and you trust in those skills, to me, that is something that can be overcome. Now, communication, so decreased body language cues. I can't see my audience right now. I don't know if some of you are lost in translation or what, because for me, I'm very visual and I do rely on your nonverbal cues. When I'm doing my classes, one of the things I ask is that people do have their cameras on so that I can see that. So I can gauge, am I losing them? You know, is it time for a break? When you're having a meeting, even, you know, through Teams or through Zoom, you know, it is harder to gauge, you know, are my employees getting this? Are they understanding? So you definitely need some visuals. You need some check-ins with them, and you need that psychological safety that they can say, hey, I'm not understanding. So there's misinterpretation of what is going on. And I need you to either to explain that, or we need to chat maybe like outside of the meeting. But I need that chance to be able to have that discussion with you and know that my employees feel safe enough to be able to say, you know, I'm really not comfortable, you know, with this meeting and what you said. And I didn't feel like I had that opportunity to express myself. So there's a lot of back and forth that will come. And as any new employee, you know, I started with the Bureau of Education in January. It takes a little bit of time to build that trust, even though I'm sitting in the building. So it will come as long as you have that determination. Now, logistics, high reliance on technology. Yes, this morning, my computer is not operating the way that I need it to operate. I was very lucky I had someone here that I could just team and say, come help me. Now, when I'm sitting at my house and my internet goes out, it's not like I can call IT and say, help me. The other day that I was supposed to be working from home, we had a storm where I live and I couldn't get on, and I had a class. So I packed everything in the car and drove to the office. That could be, you know, that could be definitely a cause for concern. Lack of IT support, maybe managing in different time zones. There are times when I do want to contact somebody in our certified public manager program that's across, you know, the country, and you kind of have to remember that, or physical distance. I love Teams and I love Zoom, because even though I'm working at home, my supervisor, I can ping him anytime. He's right there. We have a face-to-face conversation. It's so much better than that reliance on email or, you know, the telephones. So I feel like even though we're not together, we're still in that same place. All right, do you want to flip that switch or that click? So these are some true or false. So visual teams don't need supervision as members work alone. Okay? That is completely false. It's not that they don't need supervision too, but they want interaction. So virtual teams can be trusted to work without being monitored closely. Right? And that's true. If I can't be trusted at home to work, I can't be trusted at the office to work. So there has to be that trust. As a leader, if you're saying that person has to stay here, because I know when that person goes home, they're not going to do their job. That might not be the person that you want on your team, because I don't believe that we change just because we're in a home office versus a work office. And that's something as a leader that's on you and not your employee. And you have to have that conversation with them. And you have to know that as a leader that you have to. So you can't manage from a distance, so managers cannot have an impact. This is false. You can manage from a distance. And you have, like I said, if you have those team buildings, my supervisor and I, we have conversations all the time when he's remote, when I'm remote. And it's a nice check-in. And it's a good feeling when someone pings me on Teams or just sends a quick, how you doing? Is there anything that we need to discuss? You know, I actually like that online. So what's that last one? Trust is not important for virtual teams, and you cannot establish trust in this type of groups anyway. False. Trust is one of the most important things that a leader needs to build right from the start. If you, like I said, and it has to go both ways. If I don't have trust in my supervisor and my supervisor doesn't have trust with me, it does not matter if I'm sitting here in this office or if I'm sitting at home. Right? I'm here to do a job. I'm here to work. And, you know, I work for a great agency and we have great communication. Not everybody has that, but you have to be able to step up as a leader and know that that's on you in that way and how you can go about and do things. The world of leaders doesn't change just because now you're managing a group telework. What's that last one? I think there's a last one. Virtual teams sometimes need face-to-face contact. Yes, don't we all? We do need that. If it is possible, you know, bring your team in, have, you know, a barbecue or a fun icebreaker or anything that you can do to have that face-to-face contact. For me, it's so important to have that face-to-face contact, I think, from the beginning, because one, the cues, the verbal and the nonverbal cues, very important. But just establishing that rapport, understanding, meet everybody on the team. Here, there are times in our agencies that we have really big agencies that when I was over even at the Department of Corrections, I didn't know everybody. You know, I only knew like a certain amount of people, but make sure that your teams are cohesive, that you do have that face-to-face contact. And if you can't, then at least do it on Teams. Have a one-on-one team meeting. Don't always do a group meeting, you know, because the one thing, yeah, when things go wrong, it's because of technology. Well, that's partly false. Right? It's not always technology when things go wrong. Technology plays a big role in that. And I'm not the best with technology. I'm just, you know, getting up, and it was really great today. Like I said, that I had somebody here that could just run in, and I'm really happy that I chose to do this from my agency versus doing this program at home. Things don't always go wrong because of technology. You can blame it on technology, or you can say that technology is the reason why you can't have that, you know, that you're not building that rapport. But to me, that is definitely something that can be overcome. So let's talk about the skills of an effective virtual team leader. So what an effective virtual team leader does, they guide and they coordinate. This is something you're going to see here that you're going to be like, wow, these are skills that we should have, definitely, even if we're, you know, if all our people are together, they inspire. And our last one there is they connect with their employees. It's not anything different. There's not a different magic formula as a leader when your people are at home or wherever they might be. Go ahead. So your traditional team, right? Communication, you're articulating a purpose and goals, you're mentoring and inspiring, go right there. All of the above, but precision in communication, building trust in a team, technological skills, all of the above. It's important to have, to build that communication, to build that trust. If you're a leader that sits behind their door on a normal occasion, you might not be that effective in that virtual world, because in this virtual world, you do have to have some contact with your people. You have to have trust. Like I said, if you don't trust them to work at home, you're not trusting them to work in your building, and it's going to show through. And then we have that global, which in our thing, all of the above, but cultural intelligence, logistics skills. We teach a supervisor academy for a reason, because like I said, not everybody has those leadership skills to be able to just one day, all of a sudden you have a team of 15 or 20. I think as a leader, you get to actually practice more of your skills in a virtual environment than in the building, because you definitely want to be able to have that interaction. So motivation, social engagement, communication, and logistics, tackling the main issues, of the virtual team. Motivation. We do motivational things here in our agency, and it is wonderful. But if you're not good at motivating your team when they're in your proximity, this is going to be an area that you're going to struggle if your team goes virtual. So these are skills that you might want to try both ways here. The social engagement. Make sure that your team is communicating regularly with each other too. Do the icebreakers. I know a lot of people don't like icebreakers. You hear, oh, we're going to do an icebreaker. Sometimes I even cringe, but it's just fun. It's fun, and it's something that's outside of the work that you can learn so much about people. Communication. Communication is key to any leader. It's one of the top skills. You have to be able to communicate. Sometimes, and I don't mean email, sometimes it's easier, right, to sit behind your keyboard and just email every communication that you want out. But that you can't handle that in a regular day. You have to be able to get up and go in face to face and talk with people. So when you're in a virtual thing, send that Teams, pick up and call and say, hey, how are you doing? You working on anything today? Do you need my help? Logistics. Do you have what you need? Right? So-and-so is on today, so-and-so is not on, all of that plays into just being able to manage your team. Once you get into that habit, and once it becomes regular, it's very, very easy to manage a virtual team and still keep the connection. So these are some practices to ensure motivation, right? Hire the right person for the job. Provide onboarding to that person. Set clear expectations and set clear goals. So you're aligning your individual goals, right, with the overriding team goals. Monitor and assess their performance. Empower your employees. That is a really, really big one. Make sure the employee is comfortable. Please provide the right tools and training if they need it. Provide support and be accessible. And give rewards, both tangible and intangible. This doesn't have to be money, right? I mean, we get rewards here just by having the chance to do our end of summer barbecue, or we had a really nice ice cream social. We have a board here that recognizes employees for what they do. That is a great way. That is job satisfaction. That makes people feel good about what they do. I'm working from home. You trust me to do that. You hired me to do a job and you have trust in me, and I can feel that. Those are very strong job satisfaction motivators. You know, set clear expectations. That's something you're going to do whether I'm sitting at my cubicle or I'm sitting at my home desk. Now, when you're looking, when you're going to hire, and some of our agencies, like I said, have a full telework, you want some traits in the person that you hire: self-management and self-discipline, openness to technology and technological change. So personality traits such as patience, perseverance, tolerance, flexibility, and understanding. Excellent team participation skills. Being an introvert, some people are like, oh, I'll just telework. I can be at home, right? I don't really have to engage, or I don't have to, but you do need to, probably more than if you actually went into the office. Propensity to trust each other. Right? Trust me that I'm going to do the job that I need to do. I'm going to do my task. I'm going to do it right. And we're going to be able to work together. And you have to be trustworthy. You have to be a good communicator, both with written and verbal. Proactively reach out for help. If I'm at my office, I'm reaching out for help. Right? If I get stuck, I know that I can just get up, ask my supervisor, hey, what do you think of this? Or can you help me troubleshoot this? When he's at home and I get stuck, I do the same exact thing. I'll be like, can I team you? And he'll be like, okay, let me finish this and then I'll reach out. And he can do the same to me. You have to thrive under a low touch, highly flexible management style. If you are one that does need that supervisor to be over your shoulder, or to, make sure that, hey, every little thing I need, I can just get up and go to the next cubicle, telework is probably not for you. You must be okay without a regular social environment in the workplace. I love the fact that I do a telework day and a work day. There are times that I do need that social environment. And then there are other times that I am perfectly happy working from my desk at home. But if you are a person that needs social all the time, then the telework, the virtual world is not for you. If I come into my job interview and I tell you that, and you know that this job is highly virtual, might not be a person you want on your team. Socialization and shared understanding. Okay? So social events, before the team starts working together and during the course of their work, have a social event. Okay? Let them visit their sites, let them know, and meet people ahead of time. Right? Share people's profiles, their interests, short bio, allowing free time for chats at the end of video conferences and virtual meetings. I'm ending a class that I'm doing this Thursday that I told you was all completely virtual, with an icebreaker, but it's, instead of an escape room, you have to get out of the breakout room and they have to do a team thing. It's kind of fun. It's just a little thing to help the students get to know each other. Training, setting clear team goals, sharing the company's vision. All of these are things that you're looking at and you're like, these are skills I'm already doing. Just make sure that when you do this and you're hiring people and you're managing your team, that you yourself are, participating in these events also with your team. 10 good communication practices. So provide regular communication. Again, if you're a leader, you should be doing this, whether I'm virtual or not. Set a communication routine. Set ground rules for communication. Provide redundancy. Clearly articulate your expectations. Share those deadlines, those tasks, progress, responsibility. Make sure communication is fully understood and follow up. A lot of times, the follow-up is the piece that gets left out. So communicate as clearly as possible. You can definitely do it by email. You can write your things in your teams, but I feel like more face-to-face, allow the back and forth communication. So whether you use Zoom as your mode or Teams, allow that so that I can see you, you can see me, I can ask the questions as they pop up. Use the right tool for each purpose. And again, do not forget that face-to-face communication. Communication, time and place. So anytime, any place. So these are just some things, right? So same time, same place, you can do those face-to-face. I can get up anytime I want and I can go ask a question. A lot of times I'm the person that I could be sitting there and I get a email asking me a question from somebody in my office. I'm not an email person. So I'm like, I'll get up and I'll walk over and answer it. So same time, different place. Use the phone, video conference, instant messaging, share your files. Different time, different place. That's the time you use the email, the web page, the forum. Different time, same place. You can even use a bulletin board. So that's what I did here. We have a bulletin board here. But the different time, different place, I want to go back. That's kind of when you do the email and the web page. If it's a quick question, get up and just, ask that person, go over, and it's a great check-in too. I can see your face. I don't have to think of what your tone was in that email or even in the Teams message. So just know that I can tell you that sometimes when I've worked for a company and I'm in the office with everybody, I still feel like I'm virtual because I feel like everybody has emailed questions and nobody wants to do face-to-face anymore. No one wants to take that time to even get up and, have a conversation. I'd rather someone team me in the same office and pop up so I can at least see their face when I talk with them. So logistics. How do you coordinate these teams? Well, you have, your motivation, you have your engagement, you have your communication, but logistics does play a really big part of this. There are some virtual communities that are 100%, they're asynchronous, right? So the logistics are, I'm communicating with you completely by email, or maybe I'm doing a recorded message to you. I'm sending it out there. So I'm reading this and I don't have the time or the opportunity to face-to-face, so coordinating this type. Asynchronous communication, asynchronous is a completely different course because that one requires a lot more like diving into and going deep into communication. And so for this one, I do see a lot of that asynchronous in the chat. I just want you guys to know that that one is complete. That would be a whole different thing to do. But here are some tips, right? So provide up-to-date technology and training. The worst thing you could do is give your people outdated computers or things that are not keeping up with the times, or even training. So when I started with the state uses Teams. I came from Zoom. So it took me a little bit of time to learn how to kind of manage and work my way around the team world. Keep your virtual teams small if you can, just 4 to 10 people. They're easier to manage. You don't want to give a leader a team of 50 people that they have to manage and think that, they're going to be able to keep up with that communication and keep up with every single person on a daily basis. Develop clear guidelines to structure communication and decision-making, and have in place a process for managing the team before they start working together virtually. Here, it was great. Before we went and had the option to do our telework day, we were a team. And I believe that we were a strong team here because we had team activities. We did things, we got to know each other. So those are really, really important things to do. This was just kind of a small presentation. I'm actually doing a 4-hour presentation I'm doing a workshop on this that was it dove deeper into this subject.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I mean, that was amazing. And
I had to wing it. See,
well, winging it worked out because that was great. We certainly generated some questions. I have a whole bunch of questions.
All right, go ahead.
Let's start. I mean, so just so everyone knows, because there were a couple questions about just what is the Bureau of Education and Training. So just so you all know, Coffee and Conversations is a discussion series. It's jointly organized by the Carsey School and the State of New Hampshire Bureau of Education and Training and the New Hampshire Association of Certified Public Managers. So this is a collaborative operation. We're thrilled to bring it to all of you. So Barbara, I don't know if you could just say a couple words about the Bureau of Education and Training, and then alongside there was a question around you mentioned the supervisor training. People don't know what that means. So if you could share that as well, that'd be great.
Sure. So the Bureau of Education and Training, we provide training for all our agencies in the state. So we have topics such as the Supervisor Academy, the Certified Public Manager Program, and I will get into those too. We also, agencies reach out to us and they have a topic that they need. So we put together the training, we were able to deliver it for them. So we have like one on respect and civility. So we just cover everybody. Every single agency is our customer here at the Bureau of Education and Training. And we offer a Supervisor Academy, and it's a great 8-week leader skills. And we go through leadership foundations, effective communications, intro to organizational behavior, performance management, and conflict resolution. And that is actually our prerequisite into the Certified Public Manager Program, which is a national certification. And it's great leadership skills. And it's things that sometimes we don't get, especially in the state. A lot of us are promoted, right, on the job that we do. We're great at the tasks, we're great at the projects. All of a sudden, the very next day, we're leading a group of 20 or even more. And we don't really know how to develop our leadership skills in such a short time. So it's a great way to be able to attend a class, use the skills you're learning in real time, and then take it back with you.
Awesome. And just so you all know, these trainings are open to any public employee across the state. So it's not just state employees that have access to CPM.
Right. It's municipal employees also.
Yeah, municipal level. Yeah. County officials. I mean, so anyone really can take advantage of these if you're, a public sector employee and you want some of these trainings. And CPM is something that is recognized nationally. There's a national board. Dennis Martino, who is on this, has served on that board. I think he still does.
Yes, he does.
So there's it's a great opportunity for those of you interested. So let me hit the chat board quickly. So one question comes in. This is from Dennis. Actually, clear communication sometimes comes across as terse. Mm-hmm. We tend to be brief, which can sound curt. Any hints?
Yes. So this depending can be where that nonverbal comes in a lot of times, but sometimes like in this atmosphere, right? People are, I'm not sure if they can see me. I can't see them. So tone, tone plays a big part of it. I am one that needs to see people in order to communicate, but I think that should be something that is kind of brought up. So if I'm talking to somebody and they don't have their camera on and we're having a discussion, I will ask them if they can turn their camera on or if they misconstrued something that I say, because it does come across very differently when you're in this type of environment. We've all had to navigate the email world, right? Email, you can't gauge a tone. You cannot. And some things that come across to us as, wow, that was rude. We find out that that's not how they meant it. It's just kind of how we took it. So I think that psychological safety of saying, hey, how did you mean that? Or please don't think that I'm being rude. Maybe time is of the essence, but being able to say that to somebody, can go a long way and set a tone. and just telling people, if you thought if you think I'm being rude or something, ask me. So
Yeah, that's great. I think that's super helpful. I've even seen people in emails in parentheses put something like sarcasm intended. So
right.
people actually know what the tone is that you're trying to strike. So I think the idea of just being upfront, setting expectations so people know where you're coming from, can be super helpful. I think we answered the asynchronous question.
Yeah,
We've
that
answered
one's a
some of the
hard one.
questions. Yeah, and as Barbara said, completely different beast. So yes, BET trainings are open to a whole bunch of different officials. There's one other question here. Let me pull this up. Any tips for managing a Zoom meeting to make sure everyone is engaged and heard?
Well, for that too, it's setting the expectations at the very beginning, raising your hand, especially. So in the Supervisor Academy, we do that, right? I have all my little squares up on Teams. And so I ask people, raise your hand or put something in the chat letting me know, but have those expectations at the beginning, because sometimes, you want to say something, right? And you're waiting your turn, then you forget what you say. So I always say clearly, please have things in the chat, put anything that you need in the chat, I will go to it, but have those expectations up front. It's no different than being in your meetings at work, right? Your staff meetings, there are expectations. We don't have wild staff meetings, maybe you do, but right, people raise their hand, should be polite. For me, communication is big, and there's always a clear expectation no matter what meeting we're in. It does not change just because we're having a Zoom meeting. Right? Respect your coworkers, raise your hand, whatever you need them to do, have those guidelines at the beginning. That will go a long way. Also, just to let everybody know, BET does have a website. You can sign up. There's a lot of great professional developments. This one that I'm doing, this little clip right here, is a complete one. Emotional intelligence, psychological safety. Those are all big things that go a long way.
I have a question between, the idea of monitoring and trust, and you talked about a lot of these concepts, and
yes,
it feels like a hard place to be sometimes. And I think about Microsoft Teams and the idea of just dropping in and saying hey to someone to make sure that they're not isolated, right? So I guess what's the balance, to make sure someone feels connected but doesn't feel as if you're micromanaging them. In an office, you could walk by someone and kind of check in on their office, just poke your head in and say, hey, how you doing? It gets harder in a virtual space to do that. So I'm just curious your thoughts around that.
Yeah. So I'm of the mind that when I was an administrator, I went around to everybody and said good morning to them. Let them know I'm here if you have anything. There's no reason why you don't do that in a virtual environment in the morning, right? Hey, I'm here. Good morning, everybody. If you need anything, please let me know, because I don't see why the trust would end whether I'm sitting at my cubicle. I could totally be sitting at my cubicle staring at a screen and it looks like I'm working and I'm not doing a thing, or I could be doing that at home, right? This is where you have to build that trust with the employee and in your own leadership skills. Right? I love what I do. And there are probably some days when I'm like looking at my screen going, oh man, if I have to write one more piece of curriculum, right? But I should be trusted to be able to do that at home also. Right? I'm not at the beach, or, I'm not doing a million multitask things because I have a job to do. And in the end, I have a product that I have to turn out. And it's going to be very apparent to anybody that I'm not doing it either way. But I always say good morning to my boss when he's at home, and he does to me too. Hey, good morning. I'm here if you have any questions. And that's all that needs to be done.
Yeah, excellent. That's super helpful. And I think it speaks to, organizations investing in the right technology so that's even possible. right? So, we talk about Teams. I mean, I know at UNH we have Microsoft Teams, and we all use it pretty regularly. If that technology is not in place, all of a sudden that becomes challenging. So I think Barbara had mentioned, in the presentation, invest in the technology, right? If there's an expectation that there are going to be virtual teams, you need to have the technology to support that. All so helpful. There's a great conversation going on the chat related to librarians. So, and Dennis, thank you for fielding that. And it looks like Robin has posted some information related to training in New Hampshire. So please feel free to check that out. I'll kind of throw out one last question here, and then if anyone else wants to jump in, please feel free. I think there's a lot related to motivation, rewards. I kind of tie this to onboarding as well. I feel like it's kind of part of setting that culture. If you have people that are working completely virtual, so not necessarily asynchronous, right? But they're just working virtual, rarely having that opportunity to come to the office. How do you establish that culture? If you really aren't going to have the barbecue with them, or you're not, right? Like that's just not an option. How do you establish that culture? How do you onboard them, to the, just getting them on that team together with everyone?
I think it's easier, like too, for us, for the state, right? So they come in first, and a lot of the agencies do the onboarding. They have that orientation, they're there. That to me is important. If you can do that, definitely bring them in. Extend that onboarding for a little bit so that you're like, okay, the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're here in the office, and let me tell you why. Because you need to be able to meet your team. You need to be able to have that face-to-face. You need to be able to do that networking, and then let them go out. But you don't have to just not have an activity where someone comes in. So for the state, in the mandate, it's, employees have to come in at least once every pay period. Agencies can do their own rules, but that's what was in that mandate. To me, that's a great thing, because you still need to bring them into the office. And I don't know, for the colleges, I understand you could definitely have a professor that's on the other side. Right? So you're not going to have as much as that back and forth and that socialization, but you definitely want to have them come into staff meetings that include everybody. You want to have the bios. You want to be able to do something. And it's not going to be the perfect situation. But if I am applying to be your professor, and I know that this is an asynchronous world and you've got instructors all over, I'm prepared for that virtual. If that's not for me, I'm not going to sign up to be your instructor. So as the employee also, those have to be questions that are asked. If they need some type of check-in, or they need, they want to be involved a little bit, then they also need to be able to come into the office. And the onboarding is a great part, but you have to hire the right employee. And kind of what I feel like I hear from a lot of our agencies right now is they're desperate, right, to fill. We have a lot of vacancies. So when you get somebody that meets the criteria on that job description, you're like, sure, come on in, right? That might not be a good fit for your team. So sometimes you might have to just bite that bullet and be like, okay, this is not going to be a good fit for this team. And right now in this economy and the way it is, it's kind of hard to do that. But telework is a great benefit in recruitment and retention tool, because especially for a state agency that can't offer money, the flexibility of saying, hey, you can work from home, you just have to come in once or twice, that could be a great attention getter for people. So you have to start weighing that. And you need a very, I think, more outgoing leader in that situation. Somebody who can think outside of the box and be like, okay, what can I do to bring my virtual team and make them feel like they're part? So I think that could be a whole course in itself.
Thank you, Barbara, so much. So So just a few points here just to finish up here. So first, these presentations are made available. I don't know about the slide deck itself, but we do record these presentations and we post them on our on the Carsey page. There's both a YouTube page and a Carsey Coffee and Conversation archives. So we will trim up this video and make it available for everyone. And we'll let you all know when that is available. Please pay attention for what is coming up next. We'll have conversations in October, November, and December, and we'll keep you all posted on those. And let me just quickly thank the folks who are behind the scenes who you're not seeing. So Laura Lloyd, thank you so much for your work. Valley, thank you for your work. Libby Schwanner, thank you for your work. And on the other side of the collaboration, we'll thank Frank Nugent, thank you so much for your support, and Robin Hoyt. Thank you for doing this on your end. And Dennis, as always, thanks for being a voice out there in the chat. Thank you everyone for signing on and joining us today. And Barbara, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. We really do appreciate it. And we look forward to continuing our conversation. Take care, everyone.